The old bar buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the thick smell of leather and beer. The Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, known across several states for their thunderous engines and iron-tough attitude, filled the air with booming voices and wild stories of the road. The place was theirs, a sacred ground for brotherhood, history, and pride. But on that chilly afternoon, the laughter came to an abrupt halt when the wooden door creaked open, and a young girl walked in. She couldn't have been more than 16. Small, quiet, and out of place in her oversized hoodie and worn-out jeans. Yet, what caught everyone's eye wasn't her face, it was the black leather vest she wore over her hoodie. The back read, "Iron Wolves." The room froze for half a second before erupting in laughter. Rough voices mocked, "Hey, sweetheart, Halloween was last week, and, who sold you that patch, kid?" The girl didn't flinch. She just kept walking toward the center of the room, her ponytail swaying slightly as the sunlight from the window glinted off the faded lettering of her vest. Her boots made a faint tapping sound on the wooden floor, soft, yet defiant. The bikers, men who'd faced rival gangs and roaring highways, couldn't believe what they were seeing. How could a kid, a girl, no less, dare to walk into their bar wearing their colors? Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of respect, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Stories like this remind us that appearances can deceive, and sometimes, the smallest person carries the biggest story. The laughter continued as she reached the center of the room. A few men leaned back in their chairs, smirking, waiting for her to back down. But she didn't. Slowly, she turned around. And that's when they saw it, the patch on her vest. Founding member. For a long, silent moment, not a single sound filled the bar. The sunlight hit the back of her jacket just right, illuminating the bold letters, the embroidered wolf head, and a small number beneath it, 1971. The oldest biker, a burly man with gray in his beard and tattoos crawling up his neck, set his beer down. His eyes widened, disbelief flickering into something softer. "No way," he muttered under his breath. The girl turned to face them now. Her eyes were glassy but determined. She looked around the room, her gaze finally settling on the old man. "You must be Bear," she said quietly. "My dad used to tell stories about you." The bar seemed to tilt. Bear stood up, his knees almost giving out. Who's your dad?" he asked, his voice trembling. Her lips quivered before she spoke. "John Matthews. You called him Steele." And just like that, every sound in the bar vanished. The name hit them like thunder. Steele Matthews was one of the original Iron Wolves, one of the toughest riders the club had ever known. He was fierce, loyal, and had saved more than one of them during their wildest days on the road. But years ago, Steele had left the club, walking away after a tragic accident that claimed his wife's life. Rumor was, he'd settled down somewhere quiet to raise his daughter. None of them ever saw him again. Until now. Tears welled up in Bear's eyes. "Steele's girl," he whispered. She nodded. "Dad passed away last winter. Cancer. Before he went, he told me about you guys. About how this patch wasn't just leather, it was brotherhood. Family. He said you'd remember." The bikers were silent, their laughter replaced with something raw and heavy. One by one, their eyes lowered, guilt washing over their faces. The same men who'd once shared the road with her father now sat frozen, realizing they just mocked his legacy. She continued, her voice breaking, "He wanted me to give this back, but I couldn't. He said being an Iron Wolf was the proudest thing he ever did. I wear this because it's the only piece of him I have left." A single tear rolled down her cheek. The silence stretched painfully long until Bear walked toward her. His boots echoed on the wooden floor, each step heavier than the last. When he stopped in front of her, he reached out a trembling hand and gently touched the patch on her back. "No," he said, his voice rough. You don't give this back. You earned it. If Steele's blood runs in you, your family. He turned to the others. Ain't that right, boys? The room erupted, not in laughter, but in cheers. The bikers stood, raising their glasses, shouting Steele's name and welcoming his daughter into the fold. Someone wiped away tears. Another man walked up to her and handed her a small, weathered leather bracelet with the Iron Wolves insignia burned into it. This was your dad's, he said softly. He left it with me years ago. She clutched it tightly, sobbing quietly. For the first time since losing her father, she didn't feel alone. Bear pulled out an old photo from his wallet, a faded picture of Steele, young and smiling, sitting on his bike surrounded by his brothers. He was our heart, Bear said. He kept us together. When he left, a part of this club went with him. He looked at her, tears shining in his eyes. Now, you brought him back. The girl smiled through her tears as the men surrounded her. They told stories of her father, how he once rode through a storm to save a stranded brother, how he stood up for the helpless, and how he believed every man deserved redemption. As the stories flowed, laughter returned to the bar, not mocking but warm and nostalgic. That night, they rode together under the setting sun. The girl sat on the back of Bear's bike, her father's bracelet glinting in the wind, the old leather vest snug around her shoulders. The roar of the engines filled the air, echoing across the mountains like a heartbeat from the past. In that moment, she realized something her father had always tried to teach her: family isn't just blood. It's the people who remember you when the world forgets, who stand by you when everyone else turns away. And that day, a teenage girl reminded a group of hardened bikers what brotherhood really meant. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Stories like these remind us that even in the toughest places, kindness and love can ride through. What lesson did you take from this story? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, never judge someone by what they wear. Every patch, every scar, every story has a heartbeat behind it.